How do you create the space for change and transformation? How do you create the space for change and transformation? For some of you, change and transformation isn't even on the menu. Like you don't even know that's really what you're really about. So I'm going to also put this question in this way. How do you create the space for deep, meaningful, and contentious conversation to take place amongst people who can actually make a change? Because at the end of the day, if there's anything of importance and change, there's transformation that's involved. You may not use that language, but at the end, but like the number of people that I have conversations with that come out and they say, "Wow, I could say this in your space." Well, it's because I'm around you. It's because of the space you've created, Niiamah. Um, at this point here, like, look, there's a part of me that enjoys hearing it because I'm like, okay, there's a power to what's being done, but then there's another part that realizes that that underneath everything here is that if the difference between speaking a truth that needs to be said, that the difference between taking action on an injustice that needs to be righted or at least brought to light, or if the difference between allowing yourself to be that much more comfortable as yourself in the world, that much more expressed, seen, and heard in the world, is based on the environment or the space that you've created, then I'm going to pull back the curtain a little bit and let you know about how I create those spaces around me, because it's not an accident and it wasn't something that was bestowed upon me. It's something that has been consciously crafted and cultivated. And I'll share a bit of this here with you, and then we're going to continue having a conversation with two individuals, two leaders that I'd love to share this space of change and transformation with. So the first thing here, and I think more than anything else, if you just ask yourself that question and choose to be intentional, you've already won. Like the world is already different as a result of that. So just know that like there's nothing here that you need to write down. You can, but like there's nothing here that you need to hold on to. It's really about asking. It's not even about asking the question. It's about taking the ownership to create the environment around you, regardless of what it might look like around you. And we might have to come to another conversation about having the courage to step into it. But I want to make sure that we're calling this out. Today, we're going to be talking to Jonathan and Jamin. And before we hit record here today, um, I recognized as soon as I saw them, I'm like, oh, I know what my priority in this conversation is. My priority is to serve you and be present. And as soon as the words came out of my mouth, I knew that I had told a lie. I knew I had told a lie because those actually are my second and third priorities for this conversation. But my number one priority was to make sure that the two of them, two amazing people in my life, got a chance to actually connect and build the start of what could be a relationship, however that ends up being over time. So before we even came on this call, the space that I created was one where they got a chance to go and spend some time alone in the breakout room and just talk about whatever they needed to talk about. I don't even know. It may or may not even be relevant for this conversation, but there was an intentional element of that. We all are in meetings that are taking place online and such. How often are we taking the time to actually craft and create the space for the deep, meaningful, powerful, and transformational conversations that this world is craving for? This is not a world of status quo. This is not a world of certainty. This is a world of uncertainty. And your ability to create those spaces is something that is a tool that I want to make sure that you know is at your disposal. We're going to continue with that space creation here. And this is, I'm entering this here. I'm now like just coming into this space with you, Jonathan and Jamin. I can feel myself just like settling into it. But there's still more space creation that I want to do uh, with both of you. And it's just through the lens of just a few agreements here. And I'm deliberately making these agreements here so that we can spend some time up front and then use that to allow us to go even deeper in our conversations. I've had life changing conversations in 3 minutes, so I'm not like, but it's about how do we prepare the space for it. Right? So the first thing here is that I'd like to enter into an agreement with you, right? Into agreements with you. The way that this works is that you can say yes or no to anything that I have up here, and if it's a no, that's fine with me. Like we either will drop it or we'll find a way to make it such that it can work. But I want to make sure that we know what we are co-creating this space together. All right. And then we'll go off and continue playing to see what needs to be served in this space. All right. So the first thing is for me to make sure I'm showing up for you. I'm gonna hide nothing and hold nothing back from either of you in this conversation. Are you good with that? Awesome. I am seeing yeses. The second thing is that I am here to serve you and not please you. I like each of you individually, and we have a long relationship. And in this space here, I'm coming here from the place of putting everything on the line in order to really serve you powerfully. Are you good with me showing up? Are you good? Are you good with being served rather than pleased? You in agreement with that?
Yes.
Thank you. The third thing here, and I realized this after a conversation I had earlier. I'm like, this just needs to just stay in the conversation. I have a track record of having life-changing conversations, and at this point in my life, I honestly refuse to have anything less than that. I'm actually in a place right now where I'm stepping into my edge, and my edge is to start having world-changing conversations. And for me, that it doesn't need to change the world, but as long as it changes your world, like we're having the right kind of conversation. So, are you open to this being a world-changing conversation on whatever scale that applies to you? Wonderful. The fourth thing for this conversation then is that I'm going to lead, but you're in control. I'm going to lead, but you're in control. What that means here is that I'm going to ask the questions that feel right to me. I'll play around with the format and structure and so on and so forth. But how you decide to engage is completely up to you. You can take us to a place where we need to with different questions. You can. Dissent is one of my favorite things. The power of no is so beautiful. Like if there's something that needs to be said, bring it in, and then I also get a chance to play with that too, right? But I'm gonna lead. I'm gonna lead, but you're in control. Any questions on that one? Just want to make sure we're good on that one.
Oh, good.
Okay, cool. Is that something that you agree to?
Yep.
All right, go. I'm saying yeses.
Good.
And then the last one here, to especially with the two of you and the people who I got to spend my time with. I want to create. I want to invite you to a place I call the brag zone. And in the brag zone, it's a wonderful space where you can never get too big. You can never get too messy. You don't have to worry about coming off as arrogant. And please don't spend time and energy worried about am I being humble. This is your place to actually own your accomplishments and to really speak out your true aspirations, dreams, and desires. So that we're not playing in the middle ground as to what feels comfortable, but we're all able to go out to our edge, the edge of our comfort zone and the edge of possibility. That's the only place I choose to play. So the way I'll phrase this one here is, are you comfortable being uncomfortable in the brag zone? Any questions on that? All right,
Good.
see a thumbs up there. All right, wonderful. I wanted to create this here. I didn't want us to just default into it. You two know me, but at the same time, I want to make sure we're creating what we have for ourselves in this space. We were practicing it even before we hit record. We were creating our own agreements here. So I'm really thrilled for what we'll have together. So for me here, I'm in the space where I would love to spend time coaching and really supporting you all. I had stopped using the word coaching for a while because at the end of the day, I was just like, I just need to serve. And as long as I'm in conversation with people, the experience will serve to whatever it needs to be served to. What I like to see here is to spend some time just really quickly. I'm going to ask both of you here, Jonathan and Jamin. I'm going to ask you both a question. I just want to just kind of just get an idea as to what's on your mind, and then I'll see how I choose to play from there. All right. So, Jamin, let's start with you. For you, what would make this a world-changing conversation for you?
Hmm. Uh, uh, I'm at an inflection point of my contribution and service through being a leadership coach. And my background has had no it's had a number of trainings, it's had all this different kind of input and experiences, but I feel like I'm really ready to dedicate myself to particular like really owning and honoring a particular discipline or form of training and transformation. And right now what I'm lacking is real clarity on like what direction that is. Like it just feels like there's just this infinite sphere of like ways in which I can develop skill sets to transform people's lives and in turn transform my own. And I just don't even know where to bloody start with that. Knowing that like I've been really good, that good to great is actually going to require some really deep and immersive training and coaching and being led by those who have come before me. And I'm just kind of like, that's a whole world. And I kind of don't know where to first, like, I don't want to dip my toe in. I actually want to go all in, but I don't know what part of the ledge to jump in from. So what would be world changing for me would be to have like clarity on that, or like the next action to take to be able to bring that into my experience of 2021 is actually what I've created.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jamin, for bringing that in. I have a follow-up for you. You good with that?
Yeah, let's do it.
There were some elements in here that I got really curious about. One of them was you said from good to great. I'm like, I've experienced you, my friend. I know what you've done. I know what you're building. I know how you show up. I know like you've already passed. If you're looking for the good to great element here, we're going to spend a long time on it because you're saying it like it's ahead of you and it's already
Yeah.
behind you, right? So if you owned right now that you're already playing at the level of great, like what would really serve you here? And I need to ask that question here because I want to make sure that I'm really seeing you and serving you fully.
Yeah, cool, man. Yeah, dude. I mean, yeah, I'm great. I'm great. I'm doing really great work. Yeah, man. I mean, as far as what would be world changing, it might like my capacity to sell my leadership program at $50,000 would be that. Like that would be world changing.
Okay. All right. Great. So let's bring that in. And I still hear what's behind the question that you asked. I'm not losing that there. But I also want to really just make sure that I'm really seeing you. All right. So your capacity to enroll for your leadership program at $50,000 a person.
You got it.
All right. Wonderful. Jonathan, how about you? What would make this a world-changing conversation for you?
So I'm actually interestingly also at an inflection point, a number of inflection points right now. So, personally, I started a romantic relationship earlier this year, which has turned into a long distance relationship, and appears will remain that way for the foreseeable future until maybe next summer. And so, I'm navigating that. I'm trying to figure out if this is something that this is the person I want to be with kind of forever, and like stick with this not ideal long distance situation. And then professionally, I am in the process of finding new, or like, interviewing for new positions internally within my organization, which those jobs would start next summer, or in the fall. And then in addition, I'm also thinking about possible external moves. So, do I want to look elsewhere? So I'm really, there's a lot of kind of uncertainty right now in my life. And I guess, for this to be world changing, and if I came away from this with like certainty, let's say, about, what I wanted to do with this romantic relationship, that would be world changing. That'd be big. So yeah.
Yay. Oh, we're gonna play today. Awesome. Awesome. I'm gonna change a couple lives in 30 minutes. This is a fun day here. Um, Let me just take quick note here so I don't lose it. Okay. Awesome. So let's play this way. Um, Jamin, why don't we start off here? I'll start off with starting by focusing on you here. Jonathan, what I'm going to invite you to here is the way that I do coaching is that anytime I'm focusing on one person, and this will go back to you, Jamin, when I go to Jonathan, I'm focusing on one person. I'm actually focusing on everyone, right? So my invitation is to engage to see how this might apply to you. See, there's many different ways you can see how it might apply to you. See how, like, how is Niiamah creating the space for these things? There may be questions that I asked that might be really applicable to you as you're going down your journey, and then we'll check in and we'll go on from there. All right. Awesome. And if there's any questions that you have for Jamin too, like, take note of it. Take note of what you find yourself curious about here. We may or may not have time to do it in this conversation, but like it would still probably serve as well. So I'm gonna make sure we do that. All right, Jamin, my friend. Um, Tell me more. Like, let's bring ourselves into this here, right? Thank you for bringing us in. The capacity to enroll 50K clients into your program. Um, the word capacity is what I get most curious about here, and I am actually, like, I find myself wanting to challenge it, but I don't know if I need to yet. So when you say capacity for that, tell me about what that means to you.
Yeah, it's the it's it's being able to back it's being able to back myself in the value of the transformation that I facilitate for other people through the process and the program that Jen and I have created with Mountains and Marathons. And so it's not just, and in addition to that, it's also the yeah, it's like the getting out of whatever is in the way of me being able to have that kind of transformative conversation with the people who can afford that kind, like this kind of investment, because I get the work that we do. I know the transformative impact, and yet I also know that there's a whole new level of influential and powerful people who once have been through and experienced like the work that we do. Like the world will change, their world will change, their communities will change. And so it's kind of like I'm working with a certain level of people right now, and I know that they'll level up. Not to say that the investment piece is the direct correlation, but there is an element of that as far as those who are the movers and shakers in our communities, in our worlds, are the ones who have resources. And so I'm inspired to take things to the next level in that regard and be the kind of person who can impact those people and also request those kinds of figures in service of my own personal expansion.
Wonderful. All right, so let's play this out. It's actually really interesting, Damon. I recently increased my baseline one-on-one rates for a year working with me to 50K myself. So this is a place that I'm also in exploration of, something that I've been playing with as well. And I think I'm going to be in this conversation with you around this here. So if I the thing that comes to mind, I'm just going to go straight to the question that's on my mind right now, which is, firstly, like we mentioned a group. Let's, for this conversation here, look at just like one person. It could be one specific person or like just one area there. But if we can get one person, if we can get you with one person, we can do that's multiplying, right? We get the 0 to 1, and then it's 1 to infinity from there, right?
Yep.
Are you good? All right, cool. So that just to put ourselves even in that mindset of just like actually one person, right? Question for you: do you have, like, is there like one person that comes to mind that's already in your world where you're like, actually, for what you're doing next, playing with me and being in a space with other leaders who are on their own transformational journey and do you see someone like that already for you? I just wanted to check in.
Yeah, so I do. I see I see the I call it like the community of people. I don't know many in that community, but I know the community of people that I want to serve.
Okay.
So
So you
I
know
can
one
point.
person in that community.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So like and I'm choosing to really focus in on one because I
Yep.
hear like I get your power and I get the community element of this all here.
I've
And
got one. Yep.
okay, you've got one. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Wonderful. Right. So starting with that one there, right, and just taking it to that level here. When it comes to the element of your capacity to enroll this person here, tell me a little bit about what feels true to you in this moment about that one person that comes to mind related to that.
Cool. So what feels true for me
Yeah.
in relation to my enrollment of that person to work with them or to have them work with me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, what feels true for me is a strong foundation of trust and rapport. What feels true for me is an intimidation, me to them. What feels true for me is an assumption of knowing what's going on for them, but not a knowingness of what's really going on for them and what their world is like. What feels true for me is an apprehension to be in an enrollment conversation with that person for a fear of it not going in the direction that I want it to go.
What else? What else is true for you?
What's true for me is I know I can make a difference, that I know my coaching would be, the process and the coaching would be transformative. It would have ripple effects, and it would open up remarkable opportunity. It could open up remarkable opportunities for working with similar people. Yeah.
Okay. So firstly, thank you for sharing that with me here, right? Um, I'm going to put in this here as an invitation as this goes along here, but like the invitation of sharing what is true to you along this part of this journey. Like I can feel right now that you're in a place of like I'm creating myself into this here, and a part of me is like I'm like yeah, that, like, and so there's an element here of this like I wanted to hear what's true for you to make sure that these aren't the things that um, that interrupt your ability to actually just be present and serve. So to whatever extent that and surface in some of these things, to whatever extent it would serve to either create spaces such that this can be expressed or however else needs to be there, I want to make sure that we're bringing that out to light first and foremost. Right? Um, I hear you on so many of these things, and the two that felt like that I felt some energy within me, which makes me a little curious about was the assumption of what's going on for them. You have some assumptions around that, and then the apprehension of being in that conversation, altogether. So here goes my general premise when it comes to enrolling anyone for any amount. All right, which is it's not about what the dollar amount is. All right, what I hear from you when you tell me that you're looking to enroll someone at a 50K level here, I'm like, oh, okay. So Jamin is looking to be in a space where he's playing with people are who have a vision, have a project, have something in mind that will bring that is like on the scale that will bring back at least 500K, $500,000, either back to them or like that is created out through that. To me, that's just like a filter for the vision that they themselves have. Like, and sometimes that's $500 physical dollars, but like the worth of that experience of them, I use 10x as a multiplier. That's what's happening here. But like, so I get more curious about like the the types of visions that you are pulling out from people, the types of projects that you're choosing to work towards, the types of, when you talked about the assumptions of what's really going on for them, being in those spaces there where the level of vision is on the level with that level of investment. At least looking at it for a sustained period of time. I think there are people who might come in one off and such, but for a sustained period of time, especially if you're looking at a group or a community of that, there, making sure that the level of that is in par. Before I go forward, let me just check in with you. How does that resonate? Does that land? Does it not land? Like, I'd be
Yeah.
curious.
No, it's actually not that. It's not that, because the community of people who I really want to serve, and the specific individual I'm thinking of, is the next generation of wealth inheritors. So the kids, the children of the philanthropists, right? And these are often people who are in a place where a lot has been given to them. And inside of that, they may not actually be deeply connected to their vision, their purpose, their capacity to really leverage their resources and their influence to create the kind of future that, that's inspiring for our community. And what I've observed is there can often be a lostness inside this community of people. So when I talk about like what's really going on for them, there's assumption inside of that, because I'm not in these kinds of conversations with these people to really know what's going on, but I see it from the outside. And so, just knowing the nature, like my zone of genius is presencing possibility for people, and, getting people deeply connected to passion and purpose and mission, and just knowing that this community of people, or this specific individual, like just clear and on path and, connected to the difference they're out to make in the world, like with who they are and the resources, the influence they have, the ripple effect that those people can have once on path and making clear, conscious choices can really transpire and create some magic in the world. So it's not necessarily about like the 10x as far as return on investment, but it's more so like really getting one's shit together to then be able to create from that place of alignment and groundedness. And I believe I can be a powerful conduit to giving those people access to that kind of clarity, to then really go out and make the difference that they're born to do and have the access to creating.
From that place of belief right now, right? What are you feeling within you?
Yeah, there's like a conviction. There's like it's like I got this.
Yeah. I'm feeling that, Jamin. I'm feeling that right now. And so there's an element here that like I'm watching myself as we walk this line around, like how do we enroll from this place? Because it felt to me like you yourself just spoke it out there. It started out from like I need to learn different skill set, go from good to great, so I can actually go ahead and serve in that level. There's nothing that you just said to me that of the places that where you would actually serve them that feels like any additional work is needed. Like, to be honest, like from a skill set and like like it feels like from your conviction and from what I know about you, that doesn't feel like the places where there's additional value added on either end. And I also get that if you're in conversation, if you're in a relationship, if you know what the actual pain points are and where the challenges are, you'll be able to then know exactly what the next right thing is for you. There's an element right now where it feels like you're a little bit too far outside to have that clarity to be able to say like, oh, okay, clearly this is what's happening. I wasn't able to show up in the way that I wanted to, or for where we're going, I want even more because this person is 90% there, but I need that next 10%. So
Yeah.
like I see you smiling here. Tell me what's going on inside before I go on.
Yeah, what's going on, man, is like I'm open to other suggestions, but I'm just like I've just got to have a call with this person.
That's
Like,
it. Yeah. Yeah.
like really, you know, because what I got connected to then was exactly what you just said, which is like I've got everything. I've got everything, and I've got the level of knowingness that like what I, you know, who I am and how I be and how I'd show up inside of that conversation. That like nothing needs to be added. It's just me being present, being curious, and then being there in service, and and like questioning those assumptions or just getting into their world. That's all. That's all, man. That's all.
So let's just call that out for that. And then this is why I chose to go down the path of one, because
Mm.
it's a lot harder when we're thinking about how we're going to do this on all the skills. But when you're making a 50K investment, like that's happening one person at a time, and then it's the next person at a time. So from that, again, from that standpoint, I'm like, oh, you already got that. You already have that part.
Yeah.
Awesome. There's we can talk to the only other thing that came to mind here was just that element we said, like the next generation of, and when you said the next generation, I know that I've been in spaces and with people who help people who have like generational wealth, or like, you know, it's the third generation within the business, you know, so on and so forth. And there are some really, like, each generation, if that's part of where you're looking at, there are some different challenges that and things that they're navigating within the family structure, not necessarily the project structure or the business structure, but within their relationship within their family, which is its own entity that where they have to navigate that also comes into play. So if there is work that you're looking to do in the generational element, I think more than anything else, it's with that one individual.
Mm.
And to the extent that there's other work around that where you are able to do some research and see what are some of the challenges that work generation by generation, relationship by relationship, so on and so forth, so that you have more insight into helping them tap into, because I'm hearing what you're saying, like there may be a bit of that path themselves that may be difficult to navigate, or to help them bring to get them there. That's another place that struck me as a potentiality. Whether or not it's going
Right.
to get the like it feels you have the surest path is just through the presence with that one person and being there for them, bringing what you have, and then the other side of it too. Is that, let me just check in with, is that when you're talking about generations, is that some of where you're at with it?
Yeah. No, that's what you just spoke into. Then is exactly it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I think I'll just presence that here. I'll like happy to have other conversations. Happy to connect you with other people who've been involved, deeply involved in that world, to help you see how you can show up powerfully. Because I think you're absolutely right in terms of the ripple effects there, as it applies to a larger group of people. But for
Yeah.
like one person, I think you have what you need.
Amazing, man. Great. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's connect offline about that. All right. Awesome. Thank you, Jamin.
Mm.
So let's go over here a little bit to Jonathan. Jonathan, hi. Firstly, it's good to see you.
Hello.
Um,
Good to see you, man.
what is one? I like to like just let me check in with you before we ask a new question of you. What is one insight, takeaway, or question that has come up for you as a result of any part of our time here together? It might have been through what Jamin said. It might have been before we even hit record. But like, what's one insight, takeaway, or question that you're playing with right now?
Um, well, I like the way that Jamin has a great sense of the clientele that he's looking for. I think that um, in my line of work, which is in public relations, one thing that we always talk about is know your audience. Okay, so who are you looking to engage? And that's step one to influencing them, is to understand them. And
I'm going to
so,
ask a quick question with this really quickly, Jonathan. I hear you. Part of what I wanted to see here is what's the application of that or something else to you? I think that's really that's what I want to understand here for you. Like, what's been something that's impacted you as a result of this conversation?
Well, so to shift to the romantic relationship that I discussed earlier. So, um, a few years ago, this New York Times article came out. It was like, ask these 36 questions to fall in love with someone. Okay. And it was 36 questions developed by some scientist. And supposedly, he got these two people to fall in love in a laboratory. And they went on to get married and this and that. And so the questions, it's three sets of 12 questions. And each set is kind of like more intimate than the one before. And they're kind of like interesting question, just different ways that you can get to know the person, understand kind of deep things about them. So I say all this to say that my girlfriend and I, we actually did over Zoom, the first set of these questions. And I was struck. First of all, it's really effective. You do like kind of develop a deeper bond, by responding to these questions and listening, to the other person's answer. But I was also struck that, despite our like months of Zoom calls and this and that, maybe I don't know this person as well as I should, or as well as I would like to. And so that is kind of a takeaway from what Jamin said, is maybe, I need to kind of be purposeful, in, getting deeper, with my girlfriend. Right. Cause I think it's easy to, to just kind of like, what happened yesterday and what'd you do and how'd you feel about it and this and that, without having those more deep conversations. And so, so that's something that I thought about, that I took away.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you for bringing that in here. Um, so I'm seeing you, and I really just see the amount of heart that you're bringing to this relationship, the amount of sincerity that you're bringing to this year, and I can feel, I can feel you in this year, in the way, at least when it comes to relationship. I'm having a little bit of a hard time articulating, but just I think it's because it's a feeling that I'm getting, not a logical element. So just know that I'm seeing you there. I appreciate you for that. All right.
Thanks.
So absolutely. So let's see for you here. Um, you had brought up, like, well, let me ask you. Let me ask two things. Firstly, are you complete when it comes to the relationship element? Is there still anything that we would need to explore? Do you feel like, actually, with this insight, like, I feel good on what my next step would be? I can see that with more. I don't know if it was clarity for you. There's a word that you used earlier, but like I'm just let me just ask you: Is that, do you feel complete on that? Is there more to explore with that'll be meaningful for you? More certainty is what you.
Um, so what was the last thing you said?
Oh, I was saying, like, do you feel complete when it comes to the relationship element? Do you feel like you have what you need to have more certainty on that, or is that something you'd like to explore even further? And I got you back if so.
Um, no, I mean, I think I think ultimately, like, it's just about embracing the uncertainty. That I don't know, like, I'm not going to feel certain about this person, I think, until, we have a chance to be together physically, for a while. And so, until then, there's like work that can be done. I can, whatever, get to know her better and deeper, more importantly. But yeah, I think, part of it is just going to be, there is not an answer at this moment. And that is what it is.
Awesome. I say awesome because I actually feel some levity now in the conversation, because there was, I'm like, how do we bring it to a place where, like, if we're looking for certainty, like, I think the whole world is looking for that in different ways. And so, that feels there's some levity I feel right now. It feels like lighter in how we can navigate this. You know, what was coming up for me when you were sharing earlier here, and I'll be really like, we'll wrap up our conversation here. I do want to like be mindful of time. I'm looking at that. I can go up to like 3 minutes past the hour, but like I do want to just like wrap up here. There's an element here in the space of not looking for certainty, that opens up something even more marvelous, and that to me is possibility. The during this time here, a lot of people are using uncertainty like it is like the latest NSYNC track. I'm an NSYNC person, not a Backstreet Boys person, although I've caught up with them, right? But with the element of almost like tossing things to uncertainty, right? Like if it don't know, we're gonna put in the uncertain bucket, and what can I do about it? It's all uncertain, right? And what I've found is that there's a different group of people who are actually taking this time and being intentional with it. The way I look at it is like there's uncertainty, but with that, our systems are uncertain. Our like the approaches that we have are uncertain. The way things have been are uncertain. To me, that's malleable. Like there's an element of this here that is like it's almost as though it's like we had frozen Play-Doh that has now started to be able like given itself room to be shaped again. And so I'm going to leave you in this space here, especially with you being in like this element, like I can't really know. I would leave you in the space of possibility. What would you love to create? Given that it's uncertain, that means that like things are open. It's like there are things that are up for grabs here. What would you love to create? I'm hearing some things around even just the way that you the fact that you're like, I want to really get to know this person tells me some of what it is in terms of what you really want to create in a relationship. And I would look to spend some time focused on that, to say, regardless of how the chips actually fall, when we get to be in the same place or whatever it is here, this is what relationship is for me. This is what I would love to create. This is how and just spend your time cultivating that, such that like whatever else makes sense when it makes sense to like plays itself out. I'm reminded for some reason right now of my wife Nicole. You know her. I met her, and within 6 months of me meeting her, she said, "I want to go and travel and go work out of Brazil. I'm applying for a job that's going to happen in Brazil." And like we were dating for 6 months, and I remember like when she brought it up, I was like, "Cool." Like I don't even know like where our relationship is gonna be. Like it went like when you get that. Why don't we get to that part when we get there? Let's focus on seeing, do we even like each other enough to like to see if it makes sense to have to worry about anything about any kind of travel. Turns out we liked each other enough that I moved out to Singapore with her several years later. We're about to have our first child any minute now. But there's that element here of like creating what you want and maximizing what you have access to right now, such that when the decision becomes and it's actually clear for you, a clear yes or a clear no, you're in the place of integrity around that. How does that feel to you?
It was good.
Well, we're gonna bring this conversation to a close here. I have this thing that I do, which is called a transition time. I feel like in the world of Zoom, we hang up the phone and we're instantly somewhere else. Back in the day, you would go to your next, like, if you're in class, you would go to your next class, you would pack up your book bag, all that stuff. So I'm gonna stick around for about 5 minutes afterwards and just like transition out with anyone that wants to stay. But just know that I appreciate you. I see you all here, and I'm glad that you all are getting to know each other, because that's is the foundation of everything else that's going to come from here. Thank you both for trusting me. Thank you for honoring me, and thank you for being the people that you are. It's a pleasure to be in space with you.
Thank you, man.
Hey, Niiamah here. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet, and then go ahead and leave one of your insights from today's video in the comments below. If you're looking to take this deeper, you can go and watch another video, or you can go to niiamah.com/tribe to get exclusive invitation to our tribe member only events. I'll see you soon.